Hello dear student, welcome in our new lecture series on Jig and Fixture. Let us start a new chapter, Jig and Fixture. First of all, what do you mean by jig and fixture? Why it is used in industry? Jig and fixture are the devices which help in increasing the rate of production of the identical part as well as simultaneously reducing the human effort required for the producing this part. The successful running for any mass production depend upon the interchangeability to facilitate easy assembly and reduction of a unit cost. Mass production method demand a fast and easy method for positioning of the work as well as the operation on it. Jig and fixture are the two. There are two tools. Production tool use accurate manufacturing duplicate as well as interchangeable part. Jig and fixture are specially designed so that large number of components can be machined or assembled identically and to ensure interchangeability of the component. These are the some example used on a jig and fixture. It is a drilling, bushing as well as a milling fixture is used in industries. What do you mean by jig? Jig is a work holding device that hold, support and locate the workpiece and guide the cutting tool for a specific operation. Jig are usually fitted with a hardened steel bushing for a guiding or other cutting tool. A jig type of tool is used to control the location and motion of the another tool. A tool jig primary purpose is to provide the repeatability of the accuracy and interchangeability in the manufacturing of the product. A device that does both function holding and work piece as well as guiding the tool is called a jig. An example of jig is when a key is duplicated, the original is used as a jig. So when a new key will as a jig, you can use as a jig. These are the example of a boring jig. Now fixture it is a work holding device that hold, support and locate the workpiece for a specific operation but does not guide the cutting tool. It provides only a reference surface or a device. What make a fixture unique is that each one is built to fit a particular part or the shape. The main purpose of a fixture is to locate in some cases as well as hold the workpiece during the machining process but does not guide the tool during the machining process. A jig differs from a fixture in that a jig it can be guide the tool during the machining process but fixture it is not guiding the tool during the machining process. Example of a fixture are the vise and chuck. These are the some another example of vise or fixture. It is used in a machining process. Which are the main elements used in a jig and fixture? The main element is a body, locating elements, clamping elements, as well as the guiding element, positioning element, and indexing element. What do you mean by body? It is a one type of plate, box, or frame type structure in which the component to be machined are loaded. It can be quietly sturdy and rigid. Locating element, these element are locate the workpiece in a proper position. Clamping element, this element firmly secure a workpiece in the location of the position. Guiding element, this element to guide the tool during the machining process. Positioning element, they have to supply this element include the different types of fastening device which are used securing the jig or fixture to be machined in a proper location, as well as the indexing element. These are the not providing always, but many workpiece may have to be indexed to different position in order to perform a machining operation on a different surface or a different location. In such cases this element will be used. So what is the basic difference between a jig and fixture? Jig is a work holding device that locate, support and guiding the tool during the machining process. In a fixture, it can hold and locate the workpiece, does not guide the tool during the machining process. Second one, jig are not clamped to the drill press table unless large diameter to be drilled, and there are necessity to move the jig to bring the one each bus directly under the drill. Fixture should be securely clamped to the table on the machine upon which the work will be done. Jig The jig are special tool particularly in the drilling, reaming, tapping and boring operation. A fixture are generally used in a milling machine, shaper machine and slotting machine. Gauge block are not necessary in a jig. Glazed block are necessary for the fixture. Lighting in construction, heavier in construction will be used. What are the advantages of and disadvantages of jig and fixture? We have to discuss advantage and disadvantages. First of all, we have to understand the principle of 6-point location. According to this principle, a workpiece can be completely restrained by providing the 3 location point in a one plane, 2 location point in a second plane, and 1 location point in a third plane. There are 6 degrees of freedom will be used in a 6-point location principle. 3 will be a translation motion and 3 will be a rotational motion. A translation motion along the x-axis, along the y-axis, and along the z-axis, as well as 3 rotational movement are along the x-axis, along the y-axis, and along the z-axis. This can be situated in the figure we have to show as being supported at the 3 round faces at the bottom by 2 round faces on a one face and a 1 round face on the other side. The same situation will be different. With this type of location, objects can be evident. The component can be not be rotated, cannot be translated along the 3 axes. It may be x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis. So there are 6 degrees of freedom will be used on this jig and fixture. Also, another principle used is a principle of least point, principle of extreme position, principle of mutually perpendicular plane. These are the some principle will be used in a jig and fixture. Now, advantages of jig and fixture. The jig and fixture will be used increasing the productivity. How to increase the productivity? That means it can be reduce machining time. That's why increase the productivity as well as production of the machining. Second one, interchangeability and quality. Jig and fixture facilitate the production of articles in a large quantity with a high degree of accuracy, uniform quality, and interchangeability of the parts. As well as third one is a skill reduction. There is no need for a skillful setting of a workpiece on a tool. Jig and fixture makes it possible to make employees unskilled or semi-skilled machine operator to maybe use. We have to saving a labor cost as well as cost reduction. Higher production, reduction in scrap, easy assembly, and saving in labor cost result in ultimate reduction in a unit cost. Next one is a fundamental principle of jig and fixture is like that locating points. We have to discuss previous. Locating points, good facility should be provided for the locating the workpiece. The article to be machined must be easily inserted and quickly taken out from the jig so that can be no time is wasted in placing a workpiece in the position to perform the different operation. The position of workpiece should be accurate with the respect to tool guiding in the jig or setting the element in the fixture. Foolproof principle also will be used. The design of jig and fixture should be such that would be not permit to workpiece or tool to insert it in the any position to correct one. Reduction in ideal time. Design of jig and fixture should be such that a process loading, clamping, and unloading type of workpiece takes a minimum as far as possible. Weight of jig and fixture. It should be easy to handle, smaller in size, and low cost regard to amount the material used without the sacrificing the rigidity and stiffness of the parts. Jig provided with the feet. Jigs sometimes are provided with the feet so that it can be placed on the table of the machine. Material for the jig and fixture usually made of hardened material to avoid frequent damage and to resist wear. Example are a mild steel, cast iron, etc. etc. Clamping device. It should be simple as possible without sacrificing the effectiveness. The strength of the clamp should be such that not only hold the workpiece firmly in the place but also strain of the cutting tool without springing when designing the jig and fixture. The essential feature of jig and fixture is a reduction of idle time should be enable easy clamping and unloading such that idle time is a minimum. Cleanness of the machining process design must be such that not much time is wasted in cleaning of scrap boards and chips. Replacement part of the standardization. The locating and supporting surface as well as parts possible replaceable should be standardized so that interchangeable manufacturing is possible. Provision for the coolant. Provision should be there is so that the tool cooled by the swap and chip are washed away. Hardened surface. All the locating and supporting surface should be hardened material as far as condition permit to that there are not quickly worn out and accuracy is retained for the long time. Insert and pits should always be riveted to those faces of the clamp which will become in contact with the finished surface of the workpiece so that can are not spoiled. Foolproofing fin and other devices of a simple nature incorporated in such position that they have always spoiled the placement of the component or hinder the fitting of the cutting tool until the later on the correct position. Economic sound. Equipment should be economically sound. Cost of the design and manufacturing should be a proportion to quality and price of the producer. Next one is easy manipulation. It should be light in weight possible and easy to handle for the workbench, so not subject to fatigue should be provided with the adequate lift aids. Initial cost as well should be ensured that a workpiece is not located on more than 3 points in any plane. Test to avoid rocking and springing loading should be done. Position of the clamp. Clamping should be occur directly above the point should supporting the workpiece to avoid the distortion and supportings. Clearance. Sufficient amount of clearance should be provided around the workpiece so operation heads can easily enter the body or workpiece and any variation can be done or accommodated. Ejecting a device. Proper ejecting device should be used incorporated to handle a body to push and the workpiece in after operation. Rigidity and stability. It should be remain perfectly rigid and stable during a operation. Provision should be made for the proper positioning and rigidity holding the jig and fixture. Safety. The design should be ensure perfectly safety of the operators. General rules for the design. If you have to design a jig and fixture, it cannot be prepared or manufacturing directly. If you have to design a jig and fixture, first of all you have to design a jig and fixture for the machining part. That means that for machine you have to design first of all jig and first of all fixture. Then and then you have to place your component on a machining process. Then and then you place your jig and fixture during a machining process. These are the some types of jig are used during a machining process. The main types of jigs are used in a machining process is a template jig, open type jig, box type jig, solid type jig, index jig, universal jig, sandwich jig, plate type jig, sandwich lift type jig, channel type jig, float type jig, multi-station step union jig and ring jig as well as boring jig will be used during a machining process. Same to same different types of fixture will be used during a machining process is a turning fixture, boring fixture, broaching fixture, tapping fixture, welding fixture, milling fixture, grinding fixture, indexing fixture, two-plug fixture and assembling fixture. These are the some fixture as well as jigs are used during a machining process. What are the general rules for the design of a jig and fixture? Compare the cost of the production of the workpiece with the present tools with the exact cost of production using the tool to be made to see the that cost of the building is not exceed the accepted gain. Decide upon the locating point and outline clamping arrangement. Make all clamping and binding device as quick acting as a possible. Make the jig as well as fixture is a foolproof. Make some locating points is adjustable. Avoid the complicated clamping arrangements as well as round all corner. Provide a handle whenever these will make a easy handling. Provide aberrant clearance as well as provide a hole on escape for the chip as well as provide holes on escape of the chip, locate a clamp so that easily can be best position to resist pressure to the cutting tool when a work. Place the all clamp on the bearing point of the workpiece that can be easily work out. Avoid the springing action as well as before using the shop. Test all jig and fixture to be made. Materials used in a jig and fixture. These are the some materials are used during a jig and fixture. Is a jig and fixture are made of variety of materials, some of which can be hardened to resist wear. Material generally used. We have to know iron carbon diagram. Above the 2% is a cast iron and below 2% is a steel. Now the percentage of carbon that increase the strength or decrease the strength is a the temperature variation also will be affected on that material. The material generally used is a high speed steel cutting tool like a drill, reamer and milling. The high speed steel is a combination of vanadium, titanium and something material. For 18 gem 14 gem 1% are used, or well a tungsten will be used in high speed steel. Die steel used for a press tool contain 1% carbon, 0.5 to 1% is a tungsten, and a less quantity of silicon and manganese will be used. For the negative rack angle we have to use a carbon, the silicon carbide as well as manganese material will be used. Carbon steel will be used for a standard cutting tool. Collet steel, spring steel containing 1 percentage carbon is a 0.5% and manganese and less than of silicon. Non-shrinking tool steel are also used in a jig and fixture. High carbon, high chromium steel will be used. Very little distortion during the heat treatment process. Nickel chromium tool used for a gear, as well as high tensile steel will be used for fastener like high tensile strength, as well as mild steel will be used for the jig and fixture. Cheapest material contain less than 0.3% of carbon. Cast iron also will be used. Cast iron is a one temp damping characteristic will be for the cast iron used for a odd shape to some machining and a laborious fabrication. CI use required for the pattern for the casting contain more than 2% of carbon. As we have to previous discuss, more than 2% of carbon that's called cast iron, less than 2% of carbon is called steel. HSS self lubricated property as well as can withstand a vibration and suitable damping for the base. Nylon and fiber also will be used for the jig and fixture, used for the soft lining for the clamp to damage the workpiece due to clamping and pressure. Phosphorus bronze used for a nut, have high tensile stress, used for the nut for a lead screw. Factor to be considered for the design of jig and fixture. First of all, you have for what component you have to design a jig and fixture. So you have to prepare this component, design to be studied carefully, ensure work is performed in a proper sequence. Maximum operation should be performed on a machining single setting. That means in a single setting maximum operation should be covered during the machining process. Capacity of the machine, careful consideration to be performed one type and capacity of the machine. That means the maximum capacity of the machine that can cover a maximum possible operation. Production requirement, what are the requirement of the production, which are the main components are required, you have to fulfill those requirements. Designed to made on the basis of actual production requirement, then comes decision on a manual and automatic tooling arrangement. Location should be ensure equal distribution of forces throughout the all sequence of the operation. Location should be hard resistance, wear resistance and high degree of accuracy. Movement of a workpiece should be restricted, should be a foolproof to avoid improper location. Should be the workpiece should facilitate easy and quick loading of the workpiece. Redundant location should be used. Avoided the sharp corner. At least one datum surface should be established. If you have to the position as well location of the position if you have defined. Then principle of extreme position is that the principle of statement is that like that particular displace of the location point with respect to another location point, the greater and distance this location, the smaller will be the resulting deviation, and therefore the higher accuracy in order to achieve the maximum accuracy in the location of the location point should be therefore should be placed apart from one another. It is possible. So there should be a minimum distance you have to maintain during a machining process. Loading and unloading of the arrangement. There should be adequate clearance for the loading and unloading. Hence, the process become quickly and easy. Size in variation must be accepted. It should be hardened material and non-sticky material used during a machining process. Clamping arrangement also will be required. So principle of least point will be used for the clamping arrangement. Quick acting clamp must be used far as possible. The clamping should be not be used cause to any deformation of the workpiece. It should be always be arranged directly above points supporting the workpiece. Power driving clamp are favored as they are quick acting, controllable, reliable and operated without causing any fatigue to the operation. Feature of the clamp are clamping pressure should be low, should not cause a distortion. Simple and foolproof movement of the clamp should be minimum. Case hardened to be prevent wear. Sufficiently robust to avoid the bending. If you have to sufficiently robust to avoid the bending, then you have to use the least points principle. That means the minimum number of locating points should be used to secure the location of the object in the plane. The object is also achieved in the above mention of a 6-point location because the base of the cube is located on the 3 points, which is the minimum to establish the former rest on the plane. Now if we have to contact the point of the 2 pins provided on the left side are joined, they will give a line parallel to the bottom of the plane and cube located between this is it will be a straight. Bottom plane will be a left with the one direction of the freedom movement. Third plane which is mutually perpendicular to both of the bottom plane and a straight line. This movement is restricted by providing a pin at the rear face. This is called a principle of minimum locating points or principle of least position. Ejector also will be used to remove work from the close fitting locator as well as speed up the unloading the parts as well as tool and the parts. Base and body construction. It should be a minimum method use machining, forging, machining, casting. This process will be used during the minimum during the machining process. Tool guiding and cutter setting. By adjusting the machine or cutter setting block, the cutter is set relative to the workpiece in a fixture. The drill buses fitted on a jig and fixture should be a minimum. Rigidity and vibration. It should be a minimum. Must possess enough rigidity and robustness, should not vibrate as it may be lead to unwanted movement of the workpiece and tool. As well as safety operation should be assured a full safety. The cost should be as simple as a cost. Insecure cost may be possible within a small timing. The degree of freedom also will be used in a jig and fixture. This degree of freedom is a 6. Generally 6 degree of freedom will be used. The principle is called a 6-point location principle. The 6 position is like that. 3 is a translation motion, 3 is a rotational motion along the x-axis, along the y-axis and along the z axis is a translationary movement. Rotationally movement is along the x-axis, along the y-axis and along the z axis. These are the 6 degree of freedom will be used. The material generally used for the jig and fixture is for the jig body is generally a cast iron. For the stud it may be mild steel. For the drill or bush it may be a gunmetal. Different type of jig and bushes will be used for the different clamp and for the different devices for the different locator will be used for the drill bus. Pin will be used for the milestone.